night for Manchester City in the end. They go through as group winners, as Dave says. Good night also for PSG, despite defeat, because Bruges have lost, or certainly losing heavily against Leipzig. So that means that PSG will go through tonight, despite that defeat there. 2-1 on the scoreboard, Damien, suggests a tight game. Is that misleading?
Absolutely, it's misleading. Manchester City are full value for their victory. I think they'd have been surprised that they went 1-0 behind and had to fight and come back, but I don't think PSG were all too motivated. There was an air of, I don't know, kind of casualness about them all night, where they just kind of thought they could just show up, but they didn't seem all that motivated. But City were motivated, organised, and fully deserved a 2-1 win.
Does it come back to what you'd say about, can you win big competitions, win Champions Leagues with superstar players who maybe don't necessarily do a lot of the donkey work, Brian?
Well, whatever about carrying one, like Messi, when he was at his superb best, he didn't always work particularly hard to get the ball back for his team. When he was surrounded by 9 other individuals outfield who all worked hard and who totally dominated possession in the game when Barcelona were in their prime. He can't do it now. He can't get away with it now with carrying Neymar not working. Mbappe, as Jerry said in the commentary, at least he was doing a bit and he was trying. But maybe he was affected by the others. He's looking at the others saying, well, why should I be trying to break my neck retrieving the ball? But they're given the example by Manchester City tonight. And Jesus, when he came on, he possibly changed the game for City in many ways. And he gave them a bit more of a focal point, but also his attitude, because he's not starting in the team on a regular basis, to try and prove the manager should be in the team. You look at these fellas and they say, well, as long as I'm fit, I'll be in the starting team. And Icardi must be looking at it going, this is dreadful. Yeah. It can't be good for the atmosphere within that team, how those 3 front players went about their business tonight.
It's not great to look at. Even watching Messi there tonight. I mean, I know you thought that watching it. It wasn't the Messi that we've come to know.
Yeah, look, he is, for me, one of the greatest, really, or the greatest. It's just the lack of love he just seems to have for the game, and that's what it looks like. It might sound harsh, but it just feels like he was just no interest in football anymore. I know he can turn it on, absolutely, and I'm pretty sure he'll turn it on, at the latter stage of the Champions League, and hope there's more left in the tank.
Think he doesn't have it in him, or
I don't know, Tom. I'm very reluctant to be too critical of him, but I mean, he just didn't look interested, and we saw a lot of that at the tail end of his Barcelona career. Everyone put that down to his circumstances in Barcelona. The club was being run into the ground, he wasn't feeling the love, the club left him down. So everyone thought, get away to PSG and get a fresh start, reinvigorate yourself, because he was at Barcelona for so long. Then you see him on nights like tonight, and it's similar. Not an awful lot of love for the game, and it's a shame. I was really looking forward to seeing him. I'd love to get a look at his running stats. I hope we'll try and find them at some point in the week.
I think they'd be low.
I'd say that he'd be down there with the goalkeepers.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, it's possible.
Definitely in the bottom few in that count. Anyway, he's lost that loving feeling. I think is what Damien has said. They are through though. PSG, Man City also through to the last 16, so they will continue in the Champions League this season. We look at the main moments, Brian. Just talk to us about where Pochettino's head may be at. I don't know if he'll decide to stay in Manchester after that this evening. Look, they're 11 points clear in the French league. They were only narrowly beaten tonight, but there's been so much talk about whether he might be fancying Man United. Did it look like a team that their manager was working his ticket there tonight to you?
Well, his team didn't respond to whatever preparations they did for the game. I mean, I showed some clips before the game of them working hard in the first match, and the front three have been very much part of that, Messi and Neymar included. But tonight, as I said at half-time, it looked like they'd kind of gone on strike in protest or something. They didn't run, didn't get about, just allowed Manchester City to run the ball out in the back. In contrast, Manchester City worked really, really hard, pressed them all over the pitch, didn't allow them get into any fluent flow in any way. So he could well be looking at his team tonight and saying, that wasn't good enough. But, in the overall sense, would you say that would deflect him from trying to be successful with PSG? Maybe his brain will be turned by the approach of Manchester United, by the uncertainty and the general attitude of PSG to managers that they're disposable if you don't win the Champions League. It's not good enough to just win the league anymore. The approach of the leaders would be, we've spent so much money and presented you with so much talent, you've got to do it.
You have to deliver.
It's hard for him because everyone knows what type of manager Pochettino is. High intensity, high energy. Look at his Spurs team. He must be under an enormous amount of pressure that these lads are going to play, and they're going to play.
And there was no energy
going before them. And if they don't want to do the running, it means he can't implement his beliefs and his kind of his thoughts on the game.
His beliefs either, Damien. Like nearly every manager in the game, there's very few managers will put up. I mean, compared to Manchester United one, even for instance, and the amount of discussion around Ronaldo, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not saying one way or the other, but that discussion is there that Ronaldo doesn't press and doesn't do enough. And it's part of the problem around Manchester United. So that's the way the game has gone. The days of having a fella hanging
But I think Pochettino has such a clear style. Everyone saw it at Tottenham, the full-backs, high intensity up and down, 2 number 6s in front of the 2 centre-backs, wide players tucked in, and it was all about recovery runs, slowing down counter-attacks. He has such a distinctive style of play.
Lots of energy.
And recovery runs are huge when they turn the ball over. The attacking numbers, when they turn it over, they really bust a gut to get back in, and the 2 number 6s slow down any counter-attack. He must find it very hard to implement any of his beliefs.
Fairness, I think he put up with Eriksen. He's working ferociously hard for Spurs. I watched a lot of Spurs, and Eriksen used to hang about. And I think they found a formula to cope with that in his time. But this team is the other extreme. If you've got 2 out of the front 3 not doing it, and the midfield players aren't good enough. They're not as good as Manchester City's midfield to control the game, to allow that.
They're workhorses. I think that's why he plays those 3 workhorses.
Yeah, too much luxury. It is Paris, of course. The other flip side of that, after hammering them at half-time, Damien, of course, this goes and happens. 49 minutes gone. And they will do this.
Of course, they have moments of quality, and this is the moment that all 3 of them actually got involved. John Stones ends up in the right-back position, and Kyle Walker covers inside. But it's Neymar's little give-and-go here, or his dummy, that attracts Cancelo. I mean, Messi does great here. I mean, that was probably his only contribution to the game, to be honest with you. And we were kind of saying, they have it in them if they try. But you need to do this over 90 minutes, running an interesting kind of link-up play between them. But you see here why Cancelo gets dragged in, because Neymar gives and goes, then runs around the back of Kyle Walker, and he sees him, and he has to go in there, because that's what I think that's the biggest danger. Then it takes a little deflection to Mbappe, and that's why he ends up with so much time at the back post. But this was brilliant. But this was the only moment that these 3 actually decided to try in the whole 90 minutes of the game.
And it's probably only right that City got back in the game, because at that point, Messi and Mbappe and Neymar could say, well, that's what you lads do the defending, you lads do the hard work, and we'll provide the goals. But the flip side of that is City had the quality to go and win the game then.
Yeah, but you can't play against City without, play with 4 and 3 in the midfield area. You've got them all watching the ball here, all attracted to the ball on one side. And what City do, they've always got this little run, and we showed it before the match. Walker runs around the back, great ball from Rodri, and loads of players in the box. So you see the back 4 in decent positions, but there's an overlap on the far side because the midfield don't switch across, and Neymar's doing nothing. He's up the pitch saying, nothing to do with me, mate. He's the full back. I'm not running with him. He gets across, bit of a stretch for Sterling. Out of the team for a long time. Looks like he might have just started to earn his place back into the team, maybe on his England performances. Played well at the weekend too. So it's hard to believe Sterling isn't in the team at times, but he's like all the Manchester City forwards. You've got to burst the gut to stay in the team, and you've got to perform. And
then you win the favour of the boss. He's like a king, so you're back in favour again, and Sterling did the business there for him, as did Jesus now, Damien. Is it fair to say, I think Jerry mentioned this in commentary, that he is more of a centre forward, and did he give them more of a focal point?
He is, but I mean, look, he gives them a focal point, and he occupies centre backs and creates a bit of space for everyone else. But again, this is very similar to their first goal, a typical Guardiola, quintessential Guardiola move, where they attack down one side, comes back to point, and then they hit it on the far side here. And it's very, very difficult as a defender, especially when you've got players here. You see Hakimi gets attracted in, but that's a quality ball from Mahrez, really. And see the overload 3v2 at the back there. It's very, very difficult to defend that. And Jesus with a nice finish. Now, Jesus is is very, very good. But I think Pep likes a more technical centre forward that can link it a little bit, or maybe a bit cleverer with his runs. You know, Jesus is excellent.
He's played him on the right, hasn't he, most of this season successfully.
So to sum up then, we talked about PSG and their problems. City, so much to admire, so much to like. But again, over the two games, like in terms of shots on goal with PSG, I think it's something like 34 to 13 in City's favour. Yet over in the goals, it's what, 3-2 if you did the old.
City have been by far the better team over the two games.
Yeah,
no doubt, no question mark about that whatsoever.
But PSG will get away with those type of performances in their domestic league and against the likes of Bruges and whatnot. But as they start progressing up the Champions League and you start meeting Bayern Munich, Chelsea's, Juventus teams, Man City's, you won't get away with it.
Indeed, they didn't get away with it tonight. We have